Hello, this is National Chess Master R. Rats here to continue my video series at chess.com about the team match between my video lessons group and the team CARPE DIEM. This was played on board 33. Our man is black to start with, Croalin, and he's playing bisplay and rating advantage on board 33, mid 1900s, low 1900s. So it's kind of a close match. Let's have a look, see what happened. And the game starts out very quiet. We have a Croalin type system that white's playing, and black is doing the right things. He's developing his pieces. And I've seen this B4 thing in a recent video I made, and I even have a student that's doing it. I just think it's wrong. I'm not sure where this is coming from. If anything, it's just creating weaknesses on B4. I don't necessarily advocate C4, but that's playable, and then try to smash open with A5. But that's what they're playing, and white actually starts getting the better of this here in a minute. And but they're both doing some maneuvering before the development's complete. I'm always advocating develop your pieces before you start making these trades, because you see both sides need to get their queen out. Black in this case is queen bishop also. These guys aren't in the game yet. And then now we got the bishop in. Now this bishop is kind of like what we call a tall pawn. It's acting kind of like a pawn, and it's shaped similar to a pawn, so that's why we call it a tall pawn. Black goes to undermine, but when are they going to develop the rest of their pieces? Okay. And gets a pin, breaks the pin, and E5. So yeah, the game's roughly about even. White has an extra, black has an extra pawn island. He has 3 of them. So we'll say that white's preserving the advantage of the first move. But the drawback with this move is it just blunders a pawn. Okay, does black have to play this move? Black could take the knight and then take the knight and then play E5. I'm just surprised by this move. It just gives up a pawn, and black doesn't seem to have anything for it. And then black promptly blunders too, or white promptly blunders. Just play F4, and this knight is pretty much anchored in. But he makes a blunder, and now black is winning. It's just this simple. Bishop takes, and kapow, there's a fork. We'll come back and look at this in a minute. I'll just kind of run through the moves. The rest of it's just basically routine. No matter how you slice it, black's a piece up, and white can't do anything to stop it. And that extra piece will eventually tell. And let's make some exchanges. Trade you right down to a ending, and we'll hear it didn't have to make any exchanges. White threw in the towel. But let's look at 2 things. The both sides critical error. We'll look at white's first. When he played queen b2, okay, just f4. Okay, now if anything, well, let's see. He's trying to hold on to this pawn. Well, let's see. If you take it, white's going to get some pressure here. Let's see. Rook here. Are you going to bring the queen back to d6? Let's see. Maybe, I'm thinking of f4, but you don't exactly have to play f4. Let's see. Knight d3 doesn't work. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe black has some pressure. He doesn't just blunder a pawn. Let's see. There's that b4 pawn I was talking about being weak. You're on this knight. You got to do something about the knight. I don't know. I like this move, but I'm thinking white should be okay here. Just have to find the right move. Let's see. What if we take? You can't take with the queen because you're running. Well, you're on this guy too. Let's see. Move the queen somewhere. Let's cut off retreats for the knight and keep the queen from getting tempoed. Well, this is certainly better for white than what happened. If you take the bishop, you know, both sides have 5 pawns, and black has an isolated pawn. White has a backward pawn. This has got to be better than what he did. Maybe I'm missing something in here. Let's take a look. F4. Okay, take the pawn. Let's see. Well, I like the idea of getting this rook activated. Attack the queen. It'll come back to d6. If anything, develop another rook. See where this goes. Now there's a threat of bishop c5. Of course, black can counter that, but and again, you can go back to this choice here. You can take this and force double pawns for what it's worth. Now, black's trying to regain his pawn here, but let's see. I don't know. Rook d1. Well, you're going to drop this pawn back. But we've kind of looked at stuff like this before, that black's going to end up with an isolated pawn. So it was definitely white shouldn't have gotten a disadvantage from this. Is the basic thing it comes down to. So he basically lost a piece. Now, so then maybe white didn't do anything wrong at all. It's your guy's job to analyze these games. I can just look at that and see that queen b2 just drops a piece to a tactic, to me, I thought black just hung a pawn here. Maybe he didn't. Knight takes. Okay, bishop takes. What's better for black? Well, you're still going to be down one pawn island. You could always develop the queen. Well, bishop c5 could come in, but then this rook is loose after the queen gets out. It's an interesting position. Let's see. But we'll go with e5. Takes. Queen here. You're on the knight, so the knight's got to be dealt with. You can't give up the knight. If you play knight f6, you're not covering the pawn on b4. I mean, knight f3, you're not covering the pawn on b4. You can't play knight d3 because bishop takes d4. But here the knight can take back on d4. So we'll give up this pawn again. Here, not playing the weakening move f4. I'm trying this. Looks like white's okay. This pawn is isolated, and it could be a problem down the road. I'm liking white here. Anyway, so much for that game. Let's load up the other one. See what happens here. Never starts at move 1. Sometimes it does. Okay. So we have the Caro-Kann Panov Botvinnik attack. So the c4. Now usually black is bringing a knight out. Here he elects to take, which develops the white bishop, and it follows theory for a little bit, and I'm not exactly sure where it leaves, but this, I think knight b6 is the main line. I like b6 in a way, but I don't like it in another way. You got to get this bishop developed, but one of the ideas is black wants to blockade on d5, and putting this pawn on b6 stops black from doing that. You can always play b6 after that. Play knight b6, and what's white do? Develop a piece? Okay, fine. Oh no, he can't develop a piece. He's got to save his bishop. Okay, now you get your blockade in motion, and develop a piece, and now you play b6. And white has a reasonable game too, but at least black's achieving his objective here. He's blockading this isolated pawn. b6 isn't conducive towards getting a blockade on that isolated pawn. Okay, and both sides are developing. So black gets developed a little quicker than if he'd blockaded, but Uh, Here, I think white made a mistake, and black justified it. Move totally caught me by surprise. Bishop takes e6. So I'm thinking this has to be well thought out. So we're going to give credit white. We have to give white credit for analyzing, but I want to know, did he consider this move? Bishop takes f3 first, a little Zwischenzug. If you take this pawn on e7 or f7, you desperado fashion, you're going to end up down a piece. If you take with the queen, you don't have the play on the e-file. You're going to be down a piece. You pretty much have to take this way. Now black takes it, and there's a big difference between this and the other line. The difference being that white doesn't have enough play to here. He doesn't have a knight e5, which is available in the other line. And I think black will just consolidate and win this if white goes into this line. See, if he takes the pawn or bishop directly, this comes in, and then if you don't play rook f7, you drop the bishop here, and this gets pretty sticky for black in a hurry. You take, and now there's an attack on this knight, there's an attack on this queen, and black is kind of limited what he can do. So he tries here, and he's just going to get all tied up in knots here in a second. Let's see. Wait, no, you take on d5 first. I think you take on d5 first. Well, let's see. I don't quite remember. I was playing around with this a little earlier. But white will come out. White will come out on this. I think he's going to win his piece back and have a decent, position. A couple of pawns up. Let's see. I don't want to do this. Let's see. Bishop takes. Queen takes. Now the queen is loose, and if you take, you can come back with the knight, getting the knight out of danger. So it must be you take here first. Now your threat is to take on e7, so he takes here. Now do you have anything with this check? See, there's a little difference here. See this check, if black takes, you pick up the queen with check, and the net result here is, now black should be okay here. He's got a rook and two bishops for a queen, but white's got a bunch of pawns. Interesting. I'm sure I'm missing something in there, but there's if white played bishop a6, he had this figured out, and we got to give him credit for that he took his time. I'm spending 4 minutes on this position. Hopefully he spent 3 hours. Okay, hopefully. So black just takes him for his word for it. Now I don't know, unless if you're playing too many games, you don't have time to look. But if someone uncorks bishop takes e6 against me, and I didn't see it coming, I'm going to take my time and find the right move. Bishop takes f3, because the move black picks is tantamount to just playing a pawn down. He plays rook e8, safeguarding e7. And white just saves his pawn or piece. Oh, come on, where's the right? There it is. There's the right line. No, not quite. Maybe it's in it right now. Let's see. Yeah, he saves his piece. And no matter how you count it up, white says just a clear pawn ahead, and happily liquidates, and not much black can do. His pieces are coming off, and black accommodates white, helps him get material off the board, and it's just leading into a losing ending for black. More pieces are coming off. White has the bishop pair. The board is going to be pretty wide open here in a minute. Those bishops are really going to dominate. And, black's doing nothing to regain a pawn. White's still got an isolated pawn, but it's an extra pawn. And now white starts mobilizing his kingside pawns. Black shouldn't be pushing pawns here. Make white come to you. But he does. And like I say, here they go. Now white's plan is to create a weakness on h4, or h5 rather, or get an outside pass pawn. and he's going to get the outside pass pawn. That's why black shouldn't have advanced his pawns, because white does this maneuver he just did. And there it is, an outside pass pawn. So white's got two pass pawns, and this one is dangerous. And black's just going to run out of gas trying to hold it. In a way, white's advancing it a little too quick, but at the same time, there's nothing black can do about it. So, logically, I'll think of activating my king a little better before I do it. But at this point, black decided to throw in the towel and give this game up. There's really no hope. If the knight's stuck defending f4, just give you an example, or for that matter, g5. But here, check, and the king's driven away from the pawn, and just advance this pawn again, and got to stop it this way, otherwise bishop takes g6, and we drive the king even further away, and now the f pawn falls. And it's true that in this line black gets that one, but I just don't see it being enough. This pawn is not going away. It's got to be monitored, and in the long run, black's going to lose. I'm sure there's probably a quicker way, and since white played that sacrifice on e6, I'm sure he had all this worked out too. At least we hope so. Anyways, well played on both games, Croalin, and thanks for your time of watching. And take care. We'll be back with another video soon.